Hey guys, it's Justine here from I Should Read That, and today I am doing my August book haul. If you're interested in seeing what I read in the month of August, I have done my August wrap-up, so I can leave a link to that below, and I will be talking about some of these books in that video as well. I hope you guys are incredibly proud of me, because I only acquired, as in bought and was sent, 12 books this month. And I read 11 books this month, so that's basically like canceling itself out, which is amazing. I'm so happy that I ended up doing that, because I talked about this before, my TBR is just completely and totally out of control, so I'm trying my best to try to get that under control. Whether it's going to work or not in the long run, we'll find out, but for now I'm very pleased with myself. I ended up getting a lot of really amazing stuff this month. So as per usual, I'm going to kind of do the books that were sent to me by the publisher first, and then I'm going to do the books that I bought on my own. The first book that I received from publishers this month was Foundryside by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is a finished copy of the book. I actually read a proof copy of it, and it's really great to see this lovely, beautiful version in person. I talk about Foundryside in my August wrap-up video because I read this month, and I really enjoyed it. I didn't like it as much as his Divine Cities books, but that was probably going to happen anyway because the Divine Cities books are my favorite books ever. If you want to see more about Foundryside, you can go ahead and check out that video. This month I also received something that was so exciting. This is Tempest and Slaughter by Tamora Pierce. So there's probably a good number of you who are freaking out because Tamora Pierce is writing a new book, and there's probably the rest of you who are like, who's Tamora Pierce? So I find that you either know who she is and you love her, or you have no idea who she is. Tamora Pierce is the person who got a lot of people, including myself, mostly young girls, to read fantasy. I remember so clearly I was 11 years old when I went into the library with my friend and she pulled Alana, the First Adventure, off of the shelf and was like, Justine, you have to read this book. And I love her books so much. They were my childhood. They're one of those sort of series of books that you look at and you just get so many nostalgia vibes. So when I found out she was writing a whole new series, I got so excited, and I'm so happy to have this in my hands. So I haven't read all of her books, and I've been trying to find them at the library, and it's been really difficult, but this follows a character named Aram, who we will see later on. We've already seen him in other books. This is basically like his prequel. This is his origin story. I don't know much about this because I haven't read those other books, but I am so excited, and I think that I might go ahead maybe at Christmas time and buy all of her books, because I have only read the Alana books, and I've read, I think, one of the Trickster's Choice books, but I haven't read all of the other ones. All of her books take place in Tortall, this one fantasy land, and they're so marvelous and wonderful, and I really want to read them all. I think this is going to be the thing that kickstarts my absolute adoration of Tamora Pierce once again. Tempest and Slaughter comes out in September of this year, so this month, and I believe it's the 20th, but I'm not 100% sure, but keep an eye out for this because she is amazing. If you've never read her stuff before, she's the best. The next September release that I am so incredibly happy to have my hands on is Wild Card by Marie Lu. So this is the sequel to Warcross. This is the second book in this duology. This is where the story is going to end, and I am very excited about this one. I will not say what this is about because it has serious spoilers for the first book, so if you haven't read the first book, do yourself a favor, do not look at the summary for this one because it has a massive spoiler in it. However, this will deal with the sort of implications of the events of the first book, and I loved that first book so much. Warcross was my first Marie Lu book, and I was incredibly impressed. It's all about sort of virtual reality, but in a really interesting way, because I'm not interested in books that have to do with video games and virtual reality. However, the way that she integrates it into her world is just so cool. It's so incredibly cool, and it's really fun, and this has a great female character, great female lead named Amika, and Amika is just really fantastic. I loved her so much, and I loved reading about sort of the things that she does and the decisions that she makes. Wild Card comes out on the 20th of September, I believe, this month, so go ahead and pick up your copy if you liked Warcross, and also if you are incredibly impressed with the sort of under the cover of Warcross, we also have a very similar thing going on here. So this is absolutely gorgeous. It's gonna look great on your shelf, so go ahead and pick it up. This book is one of my current reads. I'm hoping to have it finished up soon, so keep an eye out for a review closer to the publication date. Another September release that looks like so much fun is We Sold Our Souls by Grady Hendrix. So Grady Hendrix is an author that I've not read before, but I have one of his books, My Best Friend's Exorcism, on my TBR, and it looks amazing. So he's a horror writer, which I absolutely love. I don't read a lot of horror other than Stephen King, and it's something that I really think that I'd enjoy. This is one of those books where I don't really want to look into it too much and see sort of what the summary is, because it's quite long on the back here, but I do know this is all about rock and roll and selling your soul to the devil, which is awesome. I'm really excited to read this. I've not read any of his books before, but I've heard really good things about his stuff from friends who like very similar things to me. So if you're interested, this book will come out in September in the UK. Next up, we have a book that I'm very interested in. This doesn't come out until February of 2019. However, I think I'm going to read it really soon because people will not stop talking about this. This is The Silent Patient, and this is by Alex Michaelides. So The Silent Patient is a thriller. It's a thriller, and I'm so excited because I have been really let down by thrillers lately. I love a good thriller. It's like the perfect reading experience for me, but I don't read them very often because I just don't know what's going to be good, what's going to be generic, and I think that this sounds like it's going to be perfect. The Silent Patient is all about a woman who had it all. She had a great job, a beautiful home, a great marriage, and her husband comes home late from work one night and she shoots him 5 times and kills him and then never says a word again. So this book takes place 5 years later, and the sort of forensic psychologist who is, I believe he's investigating the case, is obsessed and he wants to figure out what happened and why she won't speak about it anymore. This sounds great. This sounds really good, and I'm seeing people who are very eager, like myself, to read this coming back with really great reviews. I am so looking forward to this. Again, you can find this in the UK in February next year. So the next book is one that I haven't read much of this genre. I've never read this author before, but it comes highly recommended by Author Sister. This is Bellwether, and this is by Susanna Kearsley. What really intrigues me about this is that it's a genre that I've not read much of. It's historical women's fiction, and in historical women's fiction, you tend to get a lot of books that revolve around a house, for example, and it's sort of the history of this house. It's usually sort of a split time narrative, and that's exactly what this sounds like. So this revolves around a house on Long Island, and it takes place during a war. I'm not sure which war because it doesn't say here. However, there is sort of this doomed romance that happens between a soldier and the daughter of the house, and centuries later there are still secrets to uncover. So it says on the back here that it's part history, part romance, and all kinds of magic. So I am very much looking forward to this. I really enjoyed The Light Over London, which is by Author Sister, which you should all totally check out when it comes out in January. And I haven't read much of this genre, as I said, and I'm really interested to read more because as much as I love all of my sci-fi and fantasy, I do also read lots of other things, and I would love to read more historical fiction because I absolutely love it. I just never tend to get around to it. This is going to be perfect. It says here that it comes out in October of 2018. However, I think this actually might already be out, or it comes out this month. I didn't check on it before I started this, but if it's not already out, keep an eye out for it soon. Next up is a book that I'm very excited about. Apparently this is the year of the novella. I never read novellas, but I've read a lot, especially this last half of the year. This is Snapshot by Brandon Sanderson. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I don't know what this book is about. I just know it's Brandon Sanderson, and I know that it is a novella, and I was 100% sold because I love him. He's one of my favorite authors. I didn't even look at the back of this. I'm not going to because I'm just going to dive right into it. That's how I tend to read his novellas because I just 100% fully trust him to be amazing and fantastic and wonderful. If you've not read his novellas, by the way, there is a volume called Arcanum Unbounded, and you can pick that up, and it has lots of his novellas and short stories in it, and it's wonderful. And some of the best novellas I've ever read are in that volume. Again, I totally trust him. I love him. I'm a total Brandon Sanderson fangirl, so I am very much looking forward to this. I'm going to probably get to this really soon because it is quite short. The last book that I was sent this month by publishers is one that I'm very interested in. I don't think I would have heard of this on my own, and it looks perfect, shall we say. So this is called One Way, and this is by S.J. Morden. This is a sci-fi thriller that takes place on Mars. So the tagline here is 8 astronauts, 1 killer, no way home. This sounds perfect. This sounds like it was written for me. This book is about a crew of criminals that are living on Mars. They were basically offered a choice. You could either die in prison or you could go live on Mars. They've been recruited to build a base, and then accidents start happening, and our main character named Frank has to figure out what's going on because it doesn't seem like these accidents are really accidents. This sounds great. This sounds so good. I'm really, really excited about this one. I believe this one is already out as well, so you can go ahead and pick it up if you are interested. This, again, it's one of those books I would have never heard about on my own, and it sounds amazing, and I know that the sequel is actually, I think it's due out really soon. So if I like this, then I am absolutely going to pick up the next one, because again, I'm like, you can probably tell I'm really excited because sci-fi thrillers are just like, oh, they're so, so good. So next I have the books that I bought on my own. So I've been trying to do this whole thing of like taming my TBR and not buying too many books, and it's been actually going okay. I technically only bought 1 book this month because apparently the rules of book blogging is that pre-orders don't count, and I've been pre-ordering books so much more than I have in the past. I never pre-ordered at all because I like to pick stuff up in the shop, and I started doing this and it's been really, really successful for me. So I have 3 pre-orders here. I have my Fairy Loot book and I have a book that I accidentally bought. I'll explain that in a minute. So first, to tackle the pre-orders, I pre-ordered City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab. I keep wanting to say V.E. Schwab. They're the same person, but in middle grade she writes under the name Victoria. I read this in the month of August, so if you are interested in hearing my thoughts on it, I talked about it in my wrap-up. It'll be linked below. I liked it. I feel like I am not like the target audience because I'm an adult and it's middle grade. That's not the issue. I just don't tend to read middle grade very much, and I feel like there's a lot of stuff that I would have loved to have elaborated on in this, but because it's a middle grade book, we didn't necessarily get that. I did really like this. I think I gave it like 3.5 stars, 3.75 stars. I literally just rated this. I should totally remember. But I liked it. It's a very cute read. It's very, very spooky. So if you're looking for something good for October, this is a great pick. The next book that I pre-ordered is one that I am very, very, very excited about. I've heard great things from the people who have read it, and it's been getting a lot of buzz, and I'm very excited about it. This is Mirage, and this is by Sumaya Daud. This is Moroccan-inspired sci-fi and fantasy combined, and I love books that manage to kind of blend the 2 genres together. You don't see it very often, but I love just this kind of thing where you get fantasy in space. It's so amazing. I believe this book is about, it's a girl named Amani, and I believe she has to sort of become the like body double for the princess, for Princess Maram, and she is a ruler who is much hated by her people and possibly by Amani as well. She's kind of conquered people and beaten them down. So she's got this kind of need for a body double, but also Amani has to sort of live in this really dangerous position. I think that this sounds great. I don't know much about it. This was literally like the first time that I've opened this up to look at the summary, because as you know, I like to go into books as blind as possible. This sounds wonderful. It looks beautiful. I love this cover so much, and this really beautiful teal cover. And I just think this is going to be great. I'm going on faith because it's really pretty and it sounds excellent. The last book that I pre-ordered this month is quite a heavy one. This is City of Lies by Sam Hawke. This is the first book in the Poison War series. I hadn't heard about this initially, and then I kind of started to hear a little bit, and then it was like the floodgates opened. Everyone was talking about this book, so I decided to go ahead and pre-order it. This is one of the first ones that I did end up pre-ordering, and it was the first one that came in, and I am just started it now. It's quite a long book, so I'm waiting to finish some of my other stuff before I really dedicate myself to this one, but I can tell you right now, this book is going to be fantastic. So I don't know much about this one as per usual, but as far as I have gotten, we have a character named Jovan, and Jovan is sort of, I'd say, the poisoner for the royal family, but that's not necessarily true because he can concoct and detect all these poisons to protect the royal family, and he is very, very close to the sort of heir of the family. And I suspect that things are going to go absolutely batshit crazy and go off the rails, and I'm so excited. This book I think is almost 600 pages, and I'm reading some longer stuff, as I said, right now, but I am fully prepared to dedicate myself to this. And I feel like this is one of those books that you sort of plop down in your lap and just fall into and get lost in for hours. So I'm very excited to get through this. I have this feeling that this is going to be one of the best books of the year for me. Next up, we have this month's Fairy Loot book. So if you don't want to know what this is, although I believe everyone should have their boxes by this point, you can go ahead and skip ahead a little bit. So this is These Rebel Waves, and this is by Sarah Rash. So this is part, I think it was the Mutinous Pirates box for August, and I was very, very excited because I love all things pirates. Like anything that has to do with sort of books about the sea or that take place on the sea, I love. But I've heard rumor that perhaps this doesn't deal nearly as much with pirates as I had hoped. So I'm a little bit cautious going into this one. I hope I'm not disappointed. So as far as I can tell, this book takes place after a revolution has happened, and we have three main characters. One is a soldier, one is a pirate, and one is a heretic. And a diplomat from the, I believe, the conquering country, or the country that was kind of like beaten away, has disappeared, and war is about to break out again. I don't know, this looks like a pirate book to me, but I don't think it will be, so this should be really interesting. I will read it, and I'm going to actually start reading my Fairy Loot books before the next book comes in, or else I'm going to have to cancel my Fairy Loot because I don't read any of these, even though I really, really want to. So I'm hoping to read this month, and I will definitely report back, but if you've read this, I would love to hear what you think about it. The very last book that I have to show you is the book that I bought by accident. So if you're in the UK, you might know Waterstones is switching over to this Waterstones Plus thing, so there's no longer physical stamp cards. Basically, if you don't know what the stamp cards are, if you kind of get 10 stamps, you get £10 off next book, all that. I was going to spend my £10 on this book, but in kind of the complications of the Waterstones Plus thing, that didn't happen. So I have 14 stamps. I'm going to use them at some point, but I should only have 4. But regardless, I got The Vagrant by Peter Newman. This will be the October pick for my fantasy book club, so I'm going to be reading this in this month, and I am very, very excited about this because when this came out, everyone was talking about it, I feel, and I know that the trilogy is now finished, and he started a new trilogy, and I have heard nothing about it. I don't think I know a single person who's read it, which is very interesting. This is one of those books that has a very kind of mysterious summary on the back, so I'll just read it now, because why not? The vagrant is his name, he has no other. Friendless and alone, he walks a desolate, war-torn landscape. His purpose is to reach the Shining City and deliver the only weapon that may make a difference in the war. But the Shining City is far away, and the war is a very dangerous place. So this looks great. It looks really intriguing. It has a kind of great cover, and just from sort of the vibe that the cover gives me, I think that this is going to be one that I really like. It's kind of like the grimmer, less happy side of fantasy. I'm very interested in this, and also he is married to one of my favorite authors, Emma Newman, who wrote Planetfall, so that is reason enough for me to want to try his books out. So that is it for this video. I feel like this is actually going to be a little bit shorter than my other book haul videos, which is a minor miracle. Because they're usually like half an hour long because I have so much stuff, but this time I actually have like less than half the number I did in my last monthly book haul post, so I'm very, very pleased with myself. Hopefully I can keep up this whole not buying books thing and pre-ordering stuff instead of buying. I don't have many pre-orders for October, so fingers crossed, maybe next month I will actually read more than I buy. Ooh, what a concept. So in the comments below, let me know what you got this month, if you've read any of these books, or if you have a recommendation for a place for me to start. I'd really love to hear from you. I post bookish content to this channel fairly frequently, so subscribe, check back soon, and I'll see you next time.